In November of 2022, I came across an obscure gameplay trailer that showcased a knight moving through a mud-soaked medieval battlefield while fighting through undead soldiers in the rain. I remember watching it and thinking, damn, this looks intense. Who made this? What studio is behind this? It looked like a $1 million Naughty Dog production that had been in development for years. I did some research only to become genuinely shocked to find out that it was only two developers, Mads Christensen and Ulrik Lang van I don't even know what the fuck that is. They were working out of a small Scandinavian studio called Heinir, and building this insane game while still working day jobs. It was pretty obvious the two of them had an instant success on their hands. The trailer went completely parabolic. The IGN upload alone hit nearly 4 million views. The Steam page brought in almost 1.25 million visits in 3 days. And the whole time, it was just two guys who had an idea and the skill to make medieval Last of Us while flipping burgers at McDonald's. It was definitely like a come on man, what the fuck am I doing with my life type of moment. All jokes aside though, Blight Survival has had a lot of surface level coverage. So for everyone that wants to know what the hell Blight Survival is, I'll start with the generic bullshit that needs to be covered, and that's the setting/story basics. The game is set in an alternate version of 14th century Europe. Two unnamed kingdoms have been locked in a war so long and so brutal that the blood soaked into the ground has spawned something. A fungal infection called the Blight, which is nature's response to centuries of people killing each other over and over in the same stretch of land. The Blight infects and reanimates dead organic matter. For all of you nerds out there, yes, it is very similar to Dead by Daylight. It can take over a multitude of things including soldiers, animals, and peasants. Anything that has died or is still living within this so-called no man's land. And it spreads too. It's more contagious than the bumps on your pecker after a Vietnam trip with the boys. But it's not just infectious from creature to creature. It spreads through the environment itself too. For any of you that have played Stalker, it's kind of like the noosphere. The developers have been experimenting with the Blight as a dynamic, creeping world force. I assume it's going to be an entity that will consume spaces, causing the terrain to change drastically in real time. This will create an ever-evolving environment that is constantly trying to kill you and everything within the world. Pretty fucking cool, right? So you'll be playing as a Riven, which is just a fancy way of saying outcast. All of the Riven in the game are castaway soldiers that have been blamed by the unnamed kingdoms for causing the Blight in the first place. Whether that's true, or whether it's a lie the kingdoms have told to justify exiling them, is something you will have to find out on your own while exploring through the story. But the result is a tribe of people with nowhere to go and no good options. They're the only ones willing to enter no man's land. It's a fuck it mentality where they have nothing left to lose. Your goal is to go into no man's land over and over to try and understand the Blight. All of this so that maybe one day you and the other Riven can finally go home. It really is an extremely compelling setup that will give players a sense of purpose for being there. I mean, you're not just a hero. You're a scapegoat who's decided to do something useful with the blame. It definitely builds a strong emotional register, and it runs through the entire design of the game. You may not feel like you're a part of a collective community that fights against an invading force like Helldivers, but you'll definitely feel like you have a purpose among other Riven looking to clear their name. And yes, it is a co-op extraction-like game, but I'll touch base on that some more in a minute. So when you're outcast and forced to become a Riven, you're stripped of your identity. You're forced to wear a mask, partly to survive the Blight's spores, and partly to erase who you were before becoming an outcast. You don't have a name in this world. You're a vanguard and that's it. Desertion is punishable by death. This execution would be enforced by one of the two kingdoms, and even if you somehow manage to escape, the Blight would just fucking kill you anyway. If you can't get rid of the Blight, you won't make it out alive. Adding some depth to the story, there are a multitude of religions in this world, and they don't agree on what the Blight is, who caused it, or what it means. For example, the Church of Eternal Dawn is one of the 3 factions you'll directly interact with. The Church works alongside with the Riven and the Blighted, each of the 3 having their own interpretation of the plague. You'll be able to make offerings at shrines to different deities during a run, and receive blessings that last the duration of that mission. Religion being integrated into the story adds a roguelite layer that makes repeated runs feel like they have texture. Now remember a few minutes ago when I mentioned this will be a co-op extraction-light experience? Well, similarly to Arc Raiders or Helldivers, each run starts from your camp, a hub you return to, upgrade, and build over time. I'm assuming it's going to have a very similar feel to Speranza. That's just another bird brain analogy. No one really knows exactly what home base will really look like quite yet. After getting your loadout ready, you'll hop into a handcrafted map that has semi-procedural variation in its encounters. SPV just means that parts of the world will be set in stone by the developers, while other parts will be algorithmically randomized. The map's the same, but the stuff within the map changes with each run. Correct me if I'm wrong, but that's my understanding. You'll have a main objective for each run, but the chaos of the world, like strange buildings in the distance, smoke on the horizon, or mysterious sounds you can't quite place, will try and pull you off course. According to my 3rd grade education research, these quote-unquote side quests will add to character development by boosting XP, providing resources, and giving you the opportunity to upgrade your weapons and abilities. It was nice to find out they won't be in the game strictly for atmospheric reasons, but rather as an awesome RNG layer for solid replayability. Now I'm going to pivot here to talk about something else I've been itching to speak on. If you've stayed this long, I'm sure the combat is making you cream in your pants just like me. The visceral intensity of the melee showcased in the gameplay could cure cancer. It's built on a 5-directional attack system, apparently inspired by Mountain Blade. Now I've never played it, but just like in Mountain Blade, the angle of your swing matters, and certain directions are more effective against certain enemies. Underneath that sits stamina management, and a posture system where you can break an enemy's stance and open them up for follow-up strikes or a grab. You will also have the ability to perform a lot of defensive maneuvers such as parrying, blocking, and dodging. Remember when I mentioned earlier that you have to set your loadout before each run? Well, that's just it, a loadout. According to what I've found, there are no classes per se, but instead your character is defined entirely by what you're wearing and how you've allocated these 3 stats: skill, endurance, and vitality. What you decide to equip and which stats you decide to upgrade after each run is what defines the build you play with each time you load in. Although you won't be picking weapons to take with you, I think it's really cool that it will have battle royale elements. The fact that there won't be any classes means that you must find, loot, and equip weapons as you go, such as swords and ranged weapons. Most of the time they will come directly from the environment or fallen enemies during the match. I'm assuming you'll have some awesome kung fu skills to take down the infected with your bare hands before finding anything, but once you do find something, the developers also decided to implement the lovely Resident Evil system of weapons deterioration. So once you get a hold of an awesome sword, it'll probably be useless after a couple kills. I have yet to figure out if you can actually repair the weapons or not, but I really hope so. Be sure to let me know in the comments if you know something that I don't. I do know for a fact though that you won't be able to take them back with you after the run is over, regardless of if you complete the main objective or not. Your armor will also eventually break, so really managing those side quests I mentioned before and the main objective will be vital to your survival each run. If you burn through your best weapons taking on a hard encounter early, you're going into the back half of the mission with whatever's left. But if you feel like you won't be able to get through a run without rendering your weapons completely useless, don't worry. Stealth is a full playstyle, not an afterthought. It's governed by 3 things: the weight of your armor, the noise you're making, and light levels. So be sure to keep that in mind when you're setting a loadout. Heavy armor makes you loud and sluggish. If you pick protection, you'll want to move through the darkness to become harder to track. The game won't force you into combat. It will give you a choice and the tools to avoid it entirely if you're patient enough. In a game where death means losing everything, stealth will become a survival skill within itself. If you decide to just say fuck it, stealth's not for me, and dip your baby maker all the way into the experience, there will definitely be dungeons like what was showcased within the trailer. They will have claustrophobic geometry that forces you to change how you fight. From what I've read, the developers have built them to require a completely different approach. The world goes vertical. When you're in a narrow corridor with something behind you and something ahead of you, the posture system and the 5-directional combat definitely take on a different weight. Just be sure to have some hours under your belt before you Leroy Jenkins a dungeon, or at least try it when you have some friends to run it with. My interpretation is that the dungeons will be designed at a difficulty meant to match a skilled player's combat abilities. So if you're actually good at the game, then you shouldn't have an issue. Just don't try it with the fourth that is always ass in every game they play. Quick side note for any of you true PvPvE fans out there, the developers have taken direct inspiration from Hunt Showdown when thinking about sound design. This is just something that I figured I should mention. It definitely lets me know everything about the kind of tension they're chasing. In Hunt, a snapped twig 200 meters away can end your run. That's the feeling they want in Blight. Every footstep matters, so be very, very quiet when you're hunting rabbits. Regardless of how you decide to play, just know death is a constant. Your character, everything they were carrying will reset, and you will start again with a new member of the Riven Brotherhood. But don't be discouraged, there is a bloodline system. Some of what you built carries forward to your next character. And the stronghold within itself has persistent progression. The camp you built, the artisan you leveled up, the infrastructure you put in place, that doesn't reset. You are always moving forward in some way, even when you lose everything personal. I really do think that this is a way smarter design than pure permadeath. Pure permadeath creates a cliff-edge relationship with the game where a single bad run erases everything you truly feel connected to. The Bloodline system softens that edge without removing the high stakes. You'll still care about losing your character, but you're not starting from absolute zero every time you die. There's an objective light at the end of the tunnel. That's the thing that will keep you coming back rather than putting the game down. I appreciate any of you that have stuck around this long. So if you have, I'm sure you'd really like to know what the hell is trying to actually kill you. All this talk of death, and I haven't even told you about the big scary monsters yet. There will obviously be a multitude of enemies, but I'll just stick with 2 of them for this video. The Rattler is the first one I'll talk about. It's the most common blighted creature within No Man's Land. You might have seen it in some of the early development footage. One of the studio artists built it entirely from scratch on camera in a YouTube short. Even though it's a basic enemy, I wanted to talk about Rattlers because it speaks to the culture of the dev team. These fucking lunatics built what they called the World Blight Boxing Championship. It's literally a combat test arena where they are beta testing the game's fight mechanics, with a crowd of Rattlers watching from the sidelines. These guys are having an absolute blast making Blight Survival, and rigorously testing its frame rate limits. The more I dig into this game, the more I see enthusiasm in a dream come true. Coming in second is the Night Stalker. The Night Stalker only exists in developmental form, but has been confirmed as the nastiest enemy so far. Just like the Rattler, if you went onto the Blight Survival YouTube channel and started to scroll their shorts, a beta version of the Night Stalker is showcased. The final visual design is still being worked on by concept artist Anastasia Grintsova, who's been exploring different directions for how its final form will look. This bad boy is being designed around caution. Night Stalkers will not be easy to take down. The principal animator, known only by his first name, Richard, for some reason I can't find his last name anywhere, has already built a sequence of nasty finishing animations for the fight. The team has been treating it like the enemy that will define what horror means in this game. I know it's on the complete opposite spectrum from the Rattler, but both were at least worth mentioning. Before I wrap this up, I just have a few final things to talk about, and then all of you can get back to cranking your little trouser snakes. I've talked about the story, game design, combat styles, and the early concept enemies. But before I read my personal final thoughts, I want to stress how much of a GigaChad creative director Ulrich is. He made the decision to go back and rebuild several of the core systems from scratch after the shit went viral, particularly the co-op infrastructure and the backbone of the Bloodline system. This will be the stuff that makes the game scalable and coherent over the long term, rather than something that works in a trailer but later falls apart in practice. But don't get me wrong, it took time, and it took a lot of it. 2025, by their own account, was entirely foundational. Ulrich and the team built new tools, established systems, and started to fine-tune the stuff that never shows up in the screenshots. It's the least glamorous phase of making anything, but also the most important. I mean, it's actually crazy how much they care. The game is now being playtested in closed sessions almost every week, with a community of around 45,000 people within the Blight Survival Discord actively shaping it. Unfortunately, because of the remodeling process, the game will not release in 2026. That's just 100% fact. The earliest window is somewhere around 2027, and even that isn't locked in. Public playtests have been announced for later this year. A nice little combat showcase they've been building toward is coming, and don't worry, all of us console players will get to join in on the fun. While at the GDC, the developers made the statement and quote, "We have a responsibility to deliver the promise." That's a team that understands exactly how much weight they're carrying and has decided to really take it serious. My final thoughts will be as follows. I've been watching Blight Survival for over 3 years now. I've seen it go viral, I've seen it go quiet, I've seen it get rebuilt from the inside out, and I've slowly seen it come back into view as of late. Through all of this, the game has had a clear vision and it stayed true to it. Most games generate hype by trying to pander to every type of player all at once. But the big open world, live service, seasonal content shit is so played out. Blight decided to do the opposite. The team stuck the middle finger and said, here is a specific place, a specific feeling, and a specific kind of pressure we want you to feel. There's no microtransactions and no battle pass. Just a story about outcasts in a world that hates them. It's definitively narrow on purpose. I think we can all agree that decisiveness is way better than broad and shallow. I don't know if the game will be great. Nobody does. But I know for a fact the foundation for an absolute classic is there. I know the team has made hard decisions for the right reasons, and I know when a two-person passion project grows into something of this scale, it's usually worth paying attention to. For all of you who stayed until the end, I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart. I'll catch you in the next one.